It's our pleasure to welcome the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals, Monti Ossenfort, into the studios. Monti, thanks for making time for us. We know how busy a time it is you're always busy as a GM, but right now especially, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. First time I've been in your studio. Exciting to be here, and not on the phone with you guys. So it's great to be here with you guys. It's an exciting time for us, and we're ready to keep this off season rolling here.
All right, before we look forward, one thing looking back, because it occurs to me, and we've talked about this a lot, that for a 4-win, 5-win football team, you guys did a great job of laying down a new foundation, a new culture, charting a new path. What did you accomplish in your perspective last season?
Yeah, I think the big thing, Dan, is we wanted to put together a culture of, really the expectations for not only our players, for our coaches, for our staff. We went into the offseason last year looking for a certain type of player, and we feel like we added a good group of rookie players. And, that continued with our staff working with the players that were already here and the new players that we brought in. And we felt like we made progress. We made progress schematically. We made progress culturally. And really, I think at this point, everyone in our organization knows what's expected of them from staff all the way down to players. And that's a big step. And that's a big step for us. And, I think the results last year didn't always show, but we do feel like we did make progress in terms of the competitive nature of our team. And we feel like we were in most, if not all, the games we played. And so we felt like we started off with a good foundation to build into going into the next year.
Yeah, I think the hallmark of the 2023 Cardinals, and Bick mentioned it, only 4 wins to show for it, but around the league, people noticed this team plays really hard. Maybe you're not going to win the game, but you're going to know you played the Arizona Cardinals. I'm curious, and you said that certain type of player you're looking for. How much of that, bleeds down to the coaching staff? It's got to be a full team effort to get that kind of buy-in, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think that starts with communication among our staff, and we have to lay out exactly the type of players that we're looking for: mature, accountable, dependable players. That really the thing that's at the top of their list and top of all of our lists is winning, and that's what it all boils down to. And when we win and when we have success, that's when personal success comes with that. And so I think having that clear communication with the entire staff and making that known to players of what the expectations are and laying out just how that each person's role leads into us being successful, I think that is all wrapped up. And that's whether we're talking about players, starters, backups, but it's staff, it's coaching, it's scouts, it's trainers, it's the entirety of the football operations. And so, the more that we can clearly communicate that vision, that's when we establish what we refer to as a culture.
Now this is kind of your time to shine. Outside of the season, you've got free agency, and of course you've got the draft. You've got a lot of capital in that draft. Outline how you are looking at this process. Do you expect to be active in free agency? Are you going to use one to supplement the other? With a broad-based look at what your viewpoint is going forward.
Yeah, and I think this offseason has been, it's been refreshing since, last year was such a whirlwind. Everything was new, and I had really been here for about a month last year, and we were a couple weeks into having JG on board, and so, we were trying to play catch-up, and we were, trying to implement processes, and so this year, really the timeline of everything that we've been doing has been in place. So, last week we had a week of our out-of-town scouts were in, and we had our week of draft meetings. This week, this morning, actually, I'm going to go in. We're going to finish up unrestricted free agency meeting with the coaches. Next week, we'll be in Indianapolis. So, our processes and timelines are now laid out in the order that they should be laid out in. And so, there's multiple different times during the year for roster construction and times to improve our roster. And 2 of the biggest are coming up here in the next couple months. First with free agency, and second with the draft. And so, ultimately, the draft has got to be where we build and where this team forms the foundation of what we're going to be moving forward. It's the place where we get the most swings at it, and we get to pick and choose the players that we want. Free agency is also another big area where we are definitely going to be active in free agency. What does that mean? I can't spell that out for you right now. I don't know what that means, because we don't completely control that, right? There's a market, and there's players that we think are going to be available right now that 2 weeks from now are not going to be available. So, free agency is full of unknowns in that respect, and also, there's dangers in free agency. Free agency, the nature of free agency is you end up overpaying. winning, and that's how it works. And it's full of mistakes. Now, that's not to say that there's not things that you can fix there, right? And so we are going to take our chances, and there will be times where we find ways to supplement our roster. But ultimately, we're going to build this team, and what we're going to be moving forward, we're going to build this thing through the draft.
Monti Ossenfort, general manager of the Arizona Cardinals, our guest here during Newsmakers Week. You said, a lot of work to be done, obviously, in terms of this doorstep of roster construction. But you can go on any website around the country and see Arizona Cardinals list of needs. How do you see the list of needs as the architect of this team?
Yeah, I mean, like we have a lot of needs. We do. And that's, that's a product of just the nature of the NFL. Every year there's turnover on the roster. We have our own group of free agents that we have to work on bringing back. And, we have to see if there's other free agents out there that we think would be a better fit for us moving forward. So, I do think that, hey, we have plenty of room for improvement. To say specifically, I'd say, we're never going to turn down good players. And so, I don't think we're in a position right now to say, hey, we're just going to target this, we're going to target that. We're going to go look at talented players that fit what we're trying to do, both culturally and also on the field. Our list of needs is good players that fit us.
I thought your quarterback, Kyler Murray, took a lot of strides last year. I think people who have seen him from day one saw the mental maturity, the process that is taking place, the trust that he has in you guys, the ability to play the position under center. What is your evaluation of him now going into this season? How permanent is that? What do you make of what you have at quarterback right now?
Yeah, I think from the day I got here, I mean, I've been nothing but impressed with Kyler. Kyler, the way that he attacked his rehab last year, in this time of year in the off season to the springtime when he was continuing his rehab and he was at the same time balancing that with the mental part of the game and learning in the classroom, even though he couldn't be out on the grass, and that continued through training camp in the first half of last season, and then ultimately to getting him back out on the field last year, where especially the last 8 games he played, particularly with those last 4 games, really stepped up and showed what Kyler can do. I mean, he's a very talented player that it's a dual threat with his arm and his legs, puts a lot of stress on the defense. So I would say just from him, I've been nothing but impressed with what he has done in our building, and it continues to right now. Kyler's in the building right now every day, working, continuing to rehab. I mean, that was a tough injury that he came back from. I mean, that's hard, and especially on someone like Kyler who relies on his legs, that takes a while to get there mentally. And so, there's usually with those types of injuries, players come back a year later, but really the big jump that they come back from is that second year. That is still, we kind of gloss over, oh, it's an ACL, he'll be back. Like that is a hard injury to come back from, both physically and maybe even more so mentally. So, we're looking forward to what Kyler can even grow upon what he did last year, but extremely happy we have Kyler right now and moving forward.
Cardinals GM Monti Ossenfort, our guest here on Bickley and Marotta Mornings. 4th overall pick in the draft. An area of need is wide receiver. It's a good wide receiver draft. I'd love to get your thoughts, Monty, on the guys at the top of this class: Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, I think all 3 of those guys are very talented players, and I think, we're sitting there at 4. Obviously it's not we don't like being at 4, right? We don't want to be at 4 again. And unfortunately, we're at 4 this year, but that also provides opportunities, right? And so, we're going to sit there and we're going to, whether it's a wide receiver, who those 3 guys that you mentioned are all 3 very talented players, there's no question. We look at every position in the draft, and we're going to, we're in the middle of that process right now, and we'll get more time to spend with those guys and all the players at the combine next week. Really excited for that week. But what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate the entirety of the draft, and we're going to make the best decision when it comes to that pick, whether that's, I think we showed last year, our propensity is to, when that phone rings, we're going to listen. And so we're going to have an opportunity to sit there and pick who we deem to be the worthy of the 4th pick, or, we're going to, and if the phone rings and somebody's got an offer for us to move up, to move back, like those are all things that we're going to consider.
There are so many ways to miss on a draft pick. That being in the industry, you can overthink things. You can look at too much data. You can, fail to project properly. What do you focus on when you get into this process now, and you've got these swings of the bat? What is it that is foundational to you to avoid making those misses?
Yeah, and I think with that, it's I mean, I'd love to sit here and tell you that I'm going to bat 1,000, from draft picks, and it's just not reality. It's just not going to happen. And so, I think with anything, we always talk about it is any player evaluation that we're trying to do. It's a pie, right? And so there's a bunch of different things that go into each piece of that pie, and I'd say the vast majority of that is always going to go back to the game tape. Okay, and so that's ultimately it's going to go back to, hey, what does this guy do when he's actually playing football? Now, there's a lot of other things that we use to paint the picture of the player. There's the combine workouts. There's the pro day workouts. There's the interview with the player when we get to sit down and talk to him, when our coaches get to sit down and talk to him. There's the medical, which is a huge piece. And so really what we're trying to do is we're trying to fill in that pie with all these pieces, and we're probably 2/3 of the way there right now. We'll fill in most of that the next couple weeks in the combine and through the pro day process. And then really the month of April is then we take a step back and we look at it in totality, and we have all these pieces, and we try to make the best decision that we can based on all the information that we collected, and we try to get the pulse of what the player is and their makeup and what how they're going to be if they're in our building every day. And that's not easy. That's not easy to do. And so we're going to try to paint that picture of what we think each player is, and then at the end of the day make the best decision.
Real quick though, how do you know what guy is going to fight in December when he's on a bad team? Because a lot of people always say, I want the guys that love football. How do you really know?
Yep, and I think that goes back to, are they showing it on the tape? Okay, because you can sit across from me and tell me anything you want to do, but in the end, are you doing it on the tape? And then when we meet the player and when we sit across from them, does that match what they're telling us? Does that match what they said they're doing on the tape? Yeah. And so if those two match, we're rolling and we feel good. If those don't match, we got some more work to do.
Before we let you go, one more rewind question. Going back to your first year at the helm of this organization, Monty, is there a moment that you're most proud of, a fond memory, or just something that the team accomplished that you took into the offseason as a real point of pride?
Yeah, and I think, there's nothing in this business that beats winning. And so I would say any one of those 4 victories that we had, particularly those victories in December.
Pennsylvania,
yeah, when we had 2 good wins there in Pittsburgh and Philly. And, winning football games, it's hard. There is a lot that goes into it from a lot of different people, from the number of hours that go into, from players to coaches to staff, and ultimately goes into 3 hours on Sunday to deem whether we were successful or not. And so any time that we were able to walk off that field, that is a testament to what our staff has done, what our players have done, and ultimately we're trying to do that much more next year in 2024 than what we did in 2023.
Monty, thanks again so much for making the time for us at a busy time for you, and hopefully we can chat again real soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Love to do it again.
Monti Ossenfort, General Manager of the Arizona Cardinals, our guest during Newsmakers Week.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.